High School. I'd ask them to just stand up and we'll please recognize them and make them welcome.
Oh, wonderful. Very good. Well, thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all very much. Any other members seeking recognition regarding a special guest? Seeing none, we will go straight into the agenda. Discussion only, budget topics, and just for everybody's edification today, we have no bills on to consider and vote. This is information gathering still in the budget process. First up, we have the Cabinet for Health and Family Services on 2A. Whoever is here for that, if anyone. And come on up and have a seat, and make sure you see the microphones, and when you're ready to speak, make sure they're close enough and that the green light is really green. And if you'll simply, is anybody else joining you? Is that it?
We will do the first two pieces around SNAP and the victim advocacy groups, and then there'll be other members of the cabinet coming up and sharing additional information.
Very good. So if you will, if the two of you will introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Dennis, and I am the Commissioner for the Department for Community-Based Services.
And I'm Misty Salmons, the Director for the Division of Administration and Financial Management for DCBS.
Very good. Thank y'all for coming in. And if each of you will raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. And so what we have on is, if I'm understood you correctly, we've got victims advocacy programs, funding for those. We have SNAP on, and I think you are going to cover those too. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I think there are also issues maybe on domestic violence, the three categories underneath victim advocacy: child advocacy, domestic violence centers, and rape crisis. Does that sound close?
Yes.
All right. And I know y'all have got slides up, and we're on limited time. They've told me that we may even have as little as an hour. I'm not sure what's coming after us or what's scheduled, but I've gone through slides, all good, and I would encourage everybody to go through those. Good information, awesome. What I'm going to narrow into is, let's just stick first on the funding on the child advocacy centers and domestic violence centers, rape crisis centers. So in House Bill 500, we have attempted to identify language that is not necessary. It's what I like to call flag language, that says people ask about something, and so we try to leave language in from budget cycle to budget cycle so that people see it, as opposed to it being in the base, which is you can't see it. If you're a normal person, you can't find it. And one issue that's popped up is this, and I believe that the child advocacy centers, domestic violence centers, and rape crisis centers may have received information from someone in your agency, maybe even last week, that they would have received a cut, fairly substantial cuts, maybe even to the tune of $5.7 million cut to rape crisis, $7.6 million cut to domestic violence, maybe a $5 million cut to children's advocacy, and then had received comments and questions about that would be existential to them. And then I think even as of late yesterday, they may have received some updated information. And it sounds like there may have been further investigation into the base, and there may have been a misunderstanding of what the import of 500 would be. Is that close?
Close. So yes, we have been beginning to have conversations with those three agencies with regards to the 27-28 budget. We have limited information right now, as you stated, and so what we know is what has been in the governor's recommended budget and in House Bill 500, the budget proposed by the House. So we can see those baseline amounts, and as far as what additional funding will be available for those agencies, we don't have the budget documentation yet to be able to share that with them. So we also are working under the assumption that there will be a reduction in general funds So, again, they're asking what will what will our 27, 28 budgets be? We are still in the budget process, and that information is being collected and gathered.
All right, and so when you say baseline amounts, are you talking about the amounts that has been used, at least in the last few budget cycles, that's in the base relative to these three things?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all clear, there are things that appear from agency additional requests by the agencies, and those things are dealt with in budget bills, but there's also the great 85 to 92% of everybody's budget that's in the base that no one sees in the bill. So it looks like that information from last week may have been.
I think there was some misunderstandings there.
I think there may have been
yes.
confusion.
Confusion,
And may
yes.
have reached out too early.
Correct.
May have gotten ahead of ourselves.
Correct.
Okay. Is it normal, historically normal, for you to reach out to these three organizations when the budget bill drops?
We have ongoing meetings and conversations. They were asking questions about the budget process and trying to prepare for 27 and 28. We had limited information, so we just wanted to meet and share what we knew. They are agencies that we very much value their partnerships. They do great work across the Commonwealth, and we want them to to have the same information that we have when we have it available. So
I believe that, and it's the same on our end also. But is it normally historically your historical norm to reach out to them in an affirmative manner and tell them what you think the budget has an import in them physically?
again, I think there was some misunderstanding regarding that. I can't speak to what has happened in prior years. This is my, so I can only speak to what, I have done within
So
this
were you the
position.
one that reached out to them?
Our program staff, they were getting questions. They reached out to begin some conversations, and I joined those meetings.
Very good. And
And,
at this-
and we'll continue,
I'm
I'm sorry, and we'll continue to have conversations and work with them, keeping them informed. That's all we were trying to do.
Yes, and I think that is exactly what should be happening. Not a problem.
Thank you.
And look, there's an issue I mentioned on the House floor when we introduced the budget. No one is really sure. Everyone I speak with is very uncertain as to what's in the base. But with a $15.5 billion budget with 85 to 92% in the base, we ought to be finding out what's in the base. And so just on that point, do you know in your agency that's under your direction, do you know what is in your base?
Misty, can you help? Yeah,
For these three entities or
No.
the whole?
For your agency, do you know what's in your base? Programmatically, it's attached to a certain dollar figure or whatever. Do you know
Yes.
what that is?
Yes.
yes.
Good. Do you have it listed somewhere?
Not
With us
me,
today?
no.
No.
Okay, but you have it. You know what it is. So will you get it to this committee within 24 hours then? Just
Yeah.
transmit by email to committee staff. That will probably help us quite a lot also.
Yes.
Now, as far as the three items that we're talking about today, were those in the base?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Misty, you want to? I mean, yes, they were. They were in our baseline budget. There has been increases over the years for things like retirement contributions, and again, we are uncertain as to what reductions there may be, and did not want to assure them that their budgets would be the same as the previous budget cycle. So it's still too early to know exactly.
Yeah, and I know you've done the best job you can making sure the information is out there, but we understand there may be quite a few people in the room interested about these particular issues. So whatever was informed last week may have been too early, was not accurate according to most recent information, and you'll continue to try to determine exactly how the funding is going to roll out. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, what we got? Oh, first off, I'm sorry, and I should have done this early. We do have an overflow room. We're trying to make sure everybody's got seating, so room 171 is being used for that. Anybody that's asked to sit down and can't find a seat, go to room 171, and they have overflow set up there. Representative Bojanowski?
Yes, just real quickly. Okay, so in House Bill 6 and 24, just for example, domestic violence shelters got 7.1 million in one-time money. So it's my understanding that that would not shift into the base.
Correct.
Do you know how much additional money was appropriated to, say, just specifically domestic violence shelters
We can-
in addition to that 7.1 million?
Last year it was 2 million.
Okay, so 2 million and then plus the 7.1 one-time money?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, Representative Bojanowski, I want to make sure, were you asking about child advocacy, domestic violence, or rape crisis? Domestic violence. And I think last year, if I recall correctly, in the last budget cycle, there were some issues about federal funding moves, that there were issues of backfilling from the General Assembly, and I think that was part of what
Yes.
that particular language was
Yeah.
for. Is
It
that
was-
accurate?
Yeah, it was federal funds that you all replaced from the Victims of Crime Act that they lost federally.
Very good. Okay. All right. And that's, thank y'all very much. And look, what is in the base is a real question at this point. Thank you for working on the stuff. Thank you for correcting the misunderstanding. And guess what? I doubt that'll be the last one as we work through $15.5 billion plus worth of stuff over the next coming weeks. Thank y'all very much.
Was there any questions regarding SNAP?
If you're going to field those also, SNAP is
Yes.
going to be a really, really easy one. We've got the slides. I would encourage everyone to look over it, and I hope you'll appreciate this. I think y'all, one or both of you may have testified previously, but we have an interaction with changes at the federal level over SNAP benefits. Administrative costs, we have a certain amount that we're taking up regardless in the budget, but there's also a conditional cost that may occur with benefit costs, not the admin, but the benefit in the event our error rate is not as low as it needs to be. At last count, even back during the interim, it sounded like we were either already under and within the safest range of error rates, and the trends were going well at that time. That was probably 6 to 8 months ago is what I remember. And then I think I've received information, and maybe even in your slides, that we have definitely, y'all have definitely, not us, y'all have definitely had a good consistent trend of going even further into the safest range of error rates, which would prevent us from having to come up with additional money in the budget. Close?
Yes.
Okay, anything you want to add to that?
So we do not anticipate, like you said, needing any additional funding for this budget cycle to contribute any portion of the benefits because our payment error rate right now, based on the case reviews and information completed by the auditor's office, we are trending at 4%, which is well under that 6%, and we don't anticipate the auditor's office completes those reviews. They submit them to USDA, and they do a review to validate. Historically, that has always been consistent. So again, we anticipate and expect our payment error rate to be 4%, and we can use either federal fiscal year 25 or 26 when that provision of HR 1 is implemented. So this is for federal fiscal year 25. So again, we do not anticipate any funding needed related to payment error. There will be additional funding needed for SNAP admin. Right now, that SNAP admin cost is 50% state, 50% federal, and HR 1 changed that to 75-25, 75 state, 25 federal. So there will need to be additional funding to be able to operate the SNAP program. And again, that is the condition of all 50 states, not just Kentucky, nothing that we have done differently than any other state. So,
very good. Two things. One, if there's anything else needed relative to the SNAP benefit program, implementation, support, whatever it is, please let the BR subcommittee chair know that, and know that quickly. Let us know that so we can have the conversations and work on that with you. And then number two, as I have said before, I had great confidence based on trends that y'all were going to get there. And I need to say thank you, doing a good job. When there's a good job, we need to say it. When there's a bad job, we need to investigate and fix it. Right now, we've got a good job, and thank y'all for doing it.
Our eligibility staff deserve that praise.
Very
They
good.
don't often get lifted up for the work that they do. So a shout out to our family support staff. They've done a phenomenal job.
Well, all I can say is on my behalf at least, and I would thank on the committees, thank you for working on it. Thank you for keeping with those targets. And if you need something, please just talk with us, okay?
Right.
Representative Bojanowski.
Yes, just real quickly, is the cost share of the SNAP administration 43.8 and 58 million in HB 500 yet, to your knowledge?
Not yet.
Okay.
That's my understanding yet.
Thank you.
That would be as related on the floor remarks, that is an additional budget
Correct.
request, an ABR, and ABRs were not included in House Bill 500. Very good. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
And y'all may want to stick around in case it gets, somebody says they need you in this same section. But we have also up possibly Veronica, Judy, Cecil regarding Medicaid, Eric, Lowry, finance and budget, maybe, and maybe not. Oh, and Commissioner Lee, I'm sorry, I looked too far down. And then good afternoon. Thank y'all for coming in, and if you will, introduce yourselves for the record, please. Make sure the microphones are lit up green and close enough to you.
Hello, I'm Lisa Lee. I'm the Commissioner for the Department for Medicaid Services.
And good afternoon. I'm Veronica Judy Cecil. I'm Senior Deputy Commissioner for the Department for Medicaid Services.
Very good. Thank y'all both for coming in. If each of you will raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Very good. Thank y'all very much. Up on topic, again, under Cabinet for Health and Family Services, and we're looking at Medicaid and somewhat SNAP. So we have possibility, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. On Medicaid in particular, you've got slides on some of this, but I'm going to hone into a particular piece. Medicaid has processes within itself to look for fraud and abuse, correct?
That's
Correct.
correct.
Historically, that's been true. I encourage everyone to look at the slides. There's good information about Medicaid as well as on that topic. And this should be an easy question, but it's an important question. Okay, we've had, no one in here act like you hadn't heard of it. We've had issues raised with Medicaid in Minnesota. We've had issues raised in California. There will likely be issues raised in other places also. So we have our historical way of dealing with things. Fraud and abuse recipients, that's one section to me. The other section is within the system itself, those that provide, those that facilitate, middlemen, all that stuff like that. Has there been any extra efforts or new programs or new thought processes with the last 1, 2, 3, 6 months about, this might be something that's put us on notice and we need to look at this differently or add a new check system in place?
I appreciate that question. We are always evolving based on the trends and the information that we see nationally, and we do have ways to monitor that. We're part of a national partnership where many states and federal law enforcement agencies are part of it. So we share when we identify something in our state or another state identifies it, we share it across the programs. And so that does absolutely prompt us to take action in terms of maybe doing some data mining, maybe some record reviews, to look across the entire program, both managed care and fee-for-service, to see if there's anything we're seeing here.
So is there anything in particular that may be in the works at this point or has already been implemented in the last 3 to 6 months?
I do not have that information to provide to you today.
Perfectly fine. Would you mind checking? And look, I'm not trying to create busy work. There's a purpose behind each piece of this. So just see if there's anything new. I know there have been issues raised about generically people that have moved out of state.
That's correct.
And that's on the benefit side. People that may be double dipping with name changes, with all kinds of stuff like that. These are things that y'all know, but what additional, if any, or new check measures may be in place? Somewhat the same on SNAP, but I'm not going to hold y'all to that because I'm not sure that that's directly related to you. Anything else on it?
I can speak to the concurrent enrollment issue, which is what they call when there's a member that may be in multiple states. So finally, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services did share a file with DMS, with each state, in fact, that identified who might be considered concurrent enrollment. They gave us specific guidelines. They issued a Medicaid director level letter with specific guidelines. We have taken action on those, and they're in the process. We're not yet ready to release any of the details of that because it is going through a process to identify and verify the residency of those individuals.
And this somewhat may delve into one of your slides. So when you identify, let's say you've gone through that new data file and you identify some issues, if you think there is some kind of fraud or abuse that's in play, you don't make a determination yourself about whether that's inappropriate, but if you think it rises to a certain level in your determination, you refer that to the AG's office. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any problem in the referrals to the AG office? Is that working okay?
It's a great relationship. We meet frequently with them.
Good.
We're on the phone with them almost daily to talk about cases, so it's a great relationship.
Good. Has there been any thought given into utilizing AI for analysis of data, especially on data files that may be new, but on claims that come in, error codes that come in, and identify hot or heat spots across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, identify hot spots where a trend just seems like, how in the world could that happen? Are you utilizing that or going to, or does it seem to be useful?
We're not yet utilizing AI, but certainly it is an up-and-coming area. But our algorithms that we create are similar to AI, where we tell the system kind of what we're looking for, and it just combs all of the claims to identify potential fraud, waste, or abuse. So it's not necessarily AI, which is more intelligent about trying to probably more distinguish.
It's less human hour
folks.
intensive is what I was looking for.
Yes. Well, our algorithms are pretty quick. They work pretty well for us.
Very good. Seeing no other questions from anybody. Anything else from y'all on the topic? One, I do encourage everybody to look at the slides. They were helpful. I just wanted to get us right into the point and get y'all back to your normal busy days. Anything else from y'all?
Just thank you for having us here and letting us explain.
Thank y'all very much for coming in. Wait a minute. Very good. Thank you very much. Next up on the agenda, we have the Kentucky Department of Education, if I'm looking at this correctly. Take that back. We've got, hold up. Don't come up yet. We've got one more, Eric Lowry, on process for receiving data on fiscal notes. You thought you were getting off scot-free, didn't you? Very good. If you will just introduce yourself for the record, please. Make sure your microphone is sufficiently close and the green light is lit up.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Lowry. I'm the Executive Director of the Office. There we go.
That's it.
My name is Eric Lowry. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Finance and Budget within the Cabinet for Health and Family Services.
Very good. Thank you for coming in today. And if you will, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And really on the topic, we've got processes for receiving data on fiscal notes. Look, there's a lot of data that goes back and forth between the executive branch and the legislative branch, especially during session, in order to get fiscal notes in a timely fashion so we can understand the financial impact, good or bad, on legislation that may pass through. We have been trying to get particular information on House Bill 2, and by its number, it's a fairly high priority that we at least analyze it and see if it needs to move this session. I believe that bill has been assigned to this committee, and it looks like we started either on the 29th or 30th requesting information. A follow-up on, that was February the 2nd, a follow-up on February the 4th. And then some of the information it looks like we're trying to get updated would have been information that was already discussed during the interim. And I'm trying to find out if there is some particular hang-up on this bill, particular hang-up with the information, or there's a hang-up with the process itself. So help me understand how we can assist you and assist the cabinet and others in getting these as fast as possible. We have limited time during the session as well, you know.
Yes, sir. So I wasn't prepared to speak about an individual bill today, but I am familiar with House Bill 2.
Good.
It is my understanding that the cabinet is reaching out to the bill sponsor to try and get a meeting to get some further clarification. There were some questions. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was around the MCO sections. It's a big, all-encompassing bill that
Yeah.
touches many areas.
Bill sponsor's right there.
Yes, sir.
I think the cabinet was just in here.
Yes.
Medicaid. That's what this bill's on.
Yes, I believe it was our Office of Legislative and Regulatory Affairs that was reaching out to try and set up a meeting.
Yep.
And we are responding, and we are setting up a meeting hopefully on Monday.
Terrific.
Very good. Is there anything that we can do to expedite the process, whether it be on House Bill 2 or whether it be on House Bill 900? Anything that we can do to expedite?
Not that I'm aware of. Typically, bills, the process of responding on a fiscal note can depend on how many we get at one time or the complexity of a bill. In the instance of House Bill 2, it's a complex bill, so that can take a little more time to review.
Very good. I am very appreciative that you had some idea of what was going on with House Bill 2. It's the process in general, that's the specific I was just concerned about and took the opportunity to ask about. Anything else on the fiscal note process need to be aware of?
No, we're always trying to provide you with the most accurate information we can.
And look, I'll go back to the very beginning remark. There's a lot of information flow back and forth. And just need to make sure that during a limited legislative session, especially with stuff that's of decently high priority, that we are able to communicate effectively.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Next up, I believe we have Kentucky Department of Education. And do I have Mr. Ross right there.
Matt Ross, Associate Commissioner in the Office of Finance and Operations.
Very good. I'm going to take that as your official introduction of yourself.
Absolutely.
Will you raise your right hand? You swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. And make sure your microphone is sufficiently close and the green light is really green in order for us to pick you up in the record to do also. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Topic that we've got on is funding for mental health services. And Representative Wilner is the reason that I have even placed certain language in prior budget years, just to make sure that we have flagged certain substance or certain subject matters. And we're trying to remove language that's just flag in the bill and go, if it's in the base, it's in the base. If it's not in the base, then we need to deal with it otherwise, okay? And I'm looking back at 24 regular session House Bill 6 veto override in part. And we have certain language on page 68 that talks about redistribution of resources in order to increase funding for school-based mental health services providers. We also have a specific on page 69, school-based mental health services provider. Included in the above general fund appropriation is about $7.4 million plus to fund school-based mental health service providers, full-time equivalent positions on a reimbursement basis. You know, I know this issue, I'm almost positive this issue has been brought up by Representative Wilner, maybe even with you or someone else in KDE. We're just trying to narrow down mental health funding. Is that language necessary to accomplish the function? Is it additional money that's necessary and we have to put something in the budget, or is there sufficient, or are there sufficient funds in the base itself? Anything you got?
Sure. So we read the budget as containing that 7.4 million as within our base. There's language there that directs the school safety marshal and the Kentucky Center for School Safety to create the distribution formula for that. So we're reading that as within our existing base.
Okay.
The department and the Board of Education has made an additional budget request for some additional funding.
Right.
Because the way it's distributed to districts now, it's basically 171 districts each get their same cut,
Right.
which figures out to be about $40-some thousand. The ask was to bump up the overall appropriation to 18 million, which is the same as sort of the SRO, same sort of logic, but the cut to each school district would then bump up to about $105,000 to help defer the mental health professionals and providers that were required or established as goals in Senate Bill 1 from 2019, the School Safety
Right.
and Resiliency Act.
Very good. Now, leaving off the additional budget request for a moment, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So the 7-point-something million that I just referenced, you consider that in the base at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In addition to whatever else was in the base at this point?
Right.
Okay. Do you know what the total is available on that subject matter in the base? Is it just the 7 or 7 plus?
It's just the 7.4.
Okay. And do you need any other language? Assume there's no additional budget request that's in play. Do you need any additional language in House Bill 500 to make sure that that 7.4 that's in the base gets properly distributed to where it's intended?
No, sir. I believe the existing language is sufficient.
Very good. All right. That was awesome. Thank you very much. It's exactly what we needed. Seeing no one with a question, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Education and Labor Cabinet, sale of properties. Come on up. It's going to be an easy one. If each of you will make sure that your microphones are sufficiently close to you and that the green lights are really bright green so we can pick you up on the record and hear you in here. If you'll introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Callie Arnold, Legislative Director for the Education and Labor Cabinet.
Good afternoon. I'm Marjorie Arnold. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Administrative Services.
Very good.
I'm Jake Fouts. I'm the Assistant Director of Fiscal Management for Education and Labor Cabinet.
Very good. Thank you very much. And I'm going to bring us in real quickly. 2024 regular session House Bill 8 revenue bill dealt with the sale of specific properties within your budget unit. The properties were Winchester, Moorhead, and Hazard. There was a specific appraised value pegged to a certain date and what could be done if those properties were sold and how the proceeds might be distributed. Make sense? Okay. Have those properties been sold in the last 2 years or close to 2 years?
2 of those facilities were sold in fiscal year 25.
Which 2?
Winchester and Hazard.
Winchester and Hazard. Moorhead, is it still an issue?
Currently, it's being leased, and so we are utilizing the building.
Okay. So, beneficial or not, that language be in a bill that says how this property can be sold and distributed?
The language would be beneficial. It would actually be really beneficial to open it up to our state-owned facilities that we have.
Yeah.
In case opportunities present.
But as to this particular one, that's property that's in Moorhead, any real purpose in it if it's leased?
Currently, it is leased, and so.
How long is the lease?
I do not know. But
1 year, 2 year, longer? Not sure?
I'm not sure of that. We can find that information out for you, though.
If you don't mind, I wasn't aware that it had been leased, so if you can let us know that, back to committee staff, when it started, when you think it's going to end, likelihoods about it. Just trying to see if this language is necessary or not. And then also in the language back from the 24 revenue bill, up to $3 million of the proceeds from the disposal, and we've had 2 properties that have been disposed, to be used to reduce the Wagner-Pizer deficit. And not sure how much was applied to that deficit. Do we know what the sales price or what the proceeds resulting were?
Yes, sir, we do.
Great. What were they?
The sale of the Hazard building was a total of $400,000. The sale of the Winchester building was a total of $61,143.
And so of that approximately 461,000, was that applied to the Wagner-Pizer deficit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was applied, and so we still have about 1.465712 million left on the deficit?
That is correct.
Very good. And if there are any other properties, rather than a carte blanche, all properties, if there are any other properties of specific interest, can you get those to us pretty quickly?
Yes, sir.
Get it back to staff. 24 hours would be great, 48, 72 on down the line, but the sooner the better if there's something of interest. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Anybody else? Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question that would be, do you have a complete list of all properties in state government?
In state government,
Mm-hmm.
we have a complete list of education and labor cabinet.
Okay, then, so you have a complete list within the labor department in terms of all the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know if there is a complete list of all property throughout the state?
I can't speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Would you mind, I know you had somewhat informally said, well, that language would be good as to all properties.
Yes, sir.
Let's say within your agency. Do you have a list of properties in your agency that would possibly benefit from this language?
We can get that to you.
Can you get that to staff 24 hours or so?
Yes, sir.
I assume you've got it. You're always working those properties. All right,
Yes,
very
sir.
good. Anyone else? Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no further questions, we'll move on. Moving on to the, onto the Auditor of Public Accounts. Thank you for coming in and sticking around with us.
Happy to do it.
If each of you will introduce yourselves for the record, make sure the microphones are sufficiently close and that green light is really green when you do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Allison Ball. I'm the Kentucky State Auditor.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Alex McGarrett, the General Counsel for Auditor Ball.
Very good. If each of you will raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. And on the agenda, we've got budget issues and House Bill 500. Got the two of you listed off, and just as a matter of context, we have been looking into codes within the executive branch budget, and judicial and legislative, looking into codes of how all expenditures are kept up with. And we had enlisted the help, and kindly the APA has assisted of going through the codes with us and for us, and helping us digest what they see through the EMAR system, which is the state system that tracks those type of transactions. And we ended up in a House Bill 500 with our analysis of certain subject matters that I thought, oh, you know, we need to bring some attention to these things. We had to put something, and we did put something in particular. I don't remember what the percentages are, but when you talk about how much do we spend as state government on advertising, not federally required, not legally required, but just advertising. What do we spend on out-of-state travel? What do we spend on in-state travel? What do we spend on food, lodging, and other stuff? And speaking of other stuff, some of the codes end up as a miscellaneous or an other, and they're extraordinarily large, and there's really no way to figure out what they attach to unless you go line by line and don't have the information to really attach a code to it. So that other or miscellaneous seems to have grown. There was one more that I don't know that we highlighted in House Bill 500, but temp services. If I recall right, it was about $69 million worth of temporary personnel services. Now, why am I even talking about that? We're still not out of the pension woods yet, public pensions. And every time we engage a temp worker, as opposed to an employee of the state, we always have to ask the question, is there any money going to the retirement system based on this? And if so, how much and how is that working? Or if none, then why do we have so much temporary labor at play? And I don't think that 69 million is going to be an aberration in a trend. It's just in the trend. So we highlighted some of those type of issues, and then I've asked you to come in today and explain, okay, how did you come up with the data, and what are you seeing? The slides, I think, that I've seen and are in the packets should be on the website, but now we'll have quite a bit of detail in them. We're not going to do all that. We don't have all the time for that, but I would ask if you could pick 1, 2, 4, whatever you feel is good, and keep it moving. These are points of interest under topics, and go, okay. And then last but not least, this is the question I've been asking. If you had a teacher, a nurse, law enforcement, university employee, janitorial staff, farmer, manufacturer, hourly labor, temp labor, and they have, or somebody that's retired that's paying income taxes, all of those, that comes into the general fund. When you purchase something, sales tax may apply. That goes into the general fund. Every time any of these expenditures we're about to look at are expended by an agency, you're taking that taxpayer's money out of the pocket and putting it on that expense. If you had those people in a room with you, would you go, yes, this is really good? Or maybe not, or no, we shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to pass any judgment or attempt to on any of these, but that's the real question at hand. So if you will, work us through the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And by way of just furthering what you're saying, it's not an audit, it is an EMARS review. And we have developed over the years quite a bit of expertise and comfort and familiarity with EMARS, so we are happy to assist explaining what's on EMARS. And just by way, also by background, and you've already alluded to this, there are no uniform use of expenditure codes, so we work with it a lot. We have a lot of familiarity. We often know what it is that we're looking at, and it's difficult because there are sometimes, well, there's no uniformity. There's also no uniform level of detail about the basis and support for particular expenditures. You've already alluded to that as well. And another thing is that expenditures are not recorded in real time. So we are happy to come in and try and shed light where it can be pretty murky, just given how it's filed. So with that, I'm going to actually turn over to my general counsel. He has led up the team that's been compiling documents to be responsive to your inquiries and responsive to the budget. So Alex, could you highlight some of those ones that we've discussed?
Yeah, I know, Mr. Chairman, we'll be cognizant of time. So let's just dive right into the expenditures. So for fiscal year 2025, the executive branch spent over $39 million in advertising. Something to note there is that every executive branch agency does have some form of a communications team that they can pretty much staff with whomever they want. One expenditure we noted was
Sure, your microphone
I'm sorry.
close enough to
Sure.
and green. Thank you.
So I think you may have heard everything I said, but basically fiscal year 25, executive branch spent $39 million on advertising. Every executive branch entity has some form of a communications team that they can staff with basically whomever they want. One expenditure we noted was a total of $2.4 million paid to an entity called Red 7E. The CEO of Red 7E has made several political contributions to the governor over the last several years, and they have a master agreement with the state, and they are the second highest paid advertising vendor that the state uses. What have we expended our money on there? Well, CHFS paid about $250,000 for an ad campaign that told people to get the COVID vaccine, and then the Kentucky Historical Society expenditure you see there. CHFS's Office of Secretary and Office of Medical Cannabis paid a single vendor almost $340,000 for the services that you see there. When we're quoting these services, these are direct quotes from the invoices and contracts that we see on EMARS. So this is not really us synthesizing the information. This is taken directly from EMARS. The other thing to note about that is this is essentially the level of detail that a lot of these contracts or invoices have. Sometimes it's a little more than this. A lot of times it's not much more than this. But one thing to note about these particular expenditures is that competitive bidding was not used for these. We found a form SPR1 that was attached to these expenditures, which notes exemptions from the competitive bidding requirements to obtain these services. Continuing on with advertising, CHFS's Department for Aging and Independent Living, also known as DAIL, paid a vendor $198,000 for a media campaign for the senior meals program. And if you recall, a few months ago, there was an alleged shortfall that the governor announced in that program. We actually did a review of that issue and realized and discovered that the ad districts, Kentucky's area development districts, gave CHFS the correct number that they needed to have for their senior meals program, but CHFS did not relay it to this body, even though basically every member of this body on both sides said that they would take whatever they would pay whatever's necessary to fund that program. Another example is Dale also paid $17,275 to a vendor for the various products you see there. What's interesting about the 2,500 puzzle games is that there was communication that actually showed that there was a problem with them, and the state was attempting to seek a refund for them, but it's unclear whether the state ever got that refund. There's another expenditure by the Department for Community-Based Services where you can see $45,000 and what it was spent on there. And then we've noticed lots of media campaigns. For example, the Council for Post-Secondary Education paid $300,000 to increase public awareness of the importance of a post-secondary education. Whether that included conversations about the importance of many other types of education outside of a four-year college degree is unknown, even though those are many good paths for a lot of people that can make them very well off. On out-of-state travel, the state executive branch for fiscal year 25 spent almost $7.5 million. And what's interesting about that number is that is about almost exactly to what the alleged revenue shortfall for the income tax reduction that that we can give to Kentuckians if we cut back on $7.5 million of spending. About at least over $398,000 was spent using American Express cards, What's interesting about the Amex cards is the level of detail that's attached to Amex card use by agencies is very little. Sometimes you only see some sort of like a flight receipt or something like that. It's difficult to know what the flight was actually for. But we found at least $398,000 worth of expenditures on those cards. The Kentucky Department of Education in particular spent almost $1 million on out-of-state travel. We have an example of an entry that we found for $28,000 in flights for some individuals who may not even be state employees. We tried to look up all the people who were listed in the flight log and did not find some of them in the state system. The Council for Post-Secondary Education spent at least $137,000 in out-of-state travel. An example of one of those expenditures is a $13,000 expenditure for 10 people to attend a conference in San Francisco. And then something of hot topic late is the governor's travel. Now, what people I think tend to forget is that the Kentucky State Police have to follow the governor where he goes to provide security. And that has not really been discussed. To be clear, I don't think anyone blames KSP for these expenditures. They have to go where the governor takes them. But we noted that they spent about $183,000 while providing security to the governor and other members of his staff. This is a breakdown of some of those expenditures. Some general points of note is that you'll see a lot of hotel stays. One of them, the O Palm Beach Resort, the Limelight Hotel in Aspen, the Montauk, if I'm saying that right, Laguna Beach Hotel, and then the Edgewater Hotel in Seattle. If you look these places up, it's difficult to find a room for less than $800 a night. Some other interesting expenditures that we saw here was a $7,600 limousine that was rented in Germany, a $4,600 car rented in Switzerland. You'll notice some meal expenditures here. And then one interesting thing was that it appears that while in Washington, D.C., there were 2 traffic tickets accumulated that were charged to Kentucky taxpayers. But we have again, this is a long list. You could view it at your pleasure. In-state travel, we spent a little over, executive branch spent over a little more than $23 million in in-state travel. Some examples here, we had noted a bunch of conferences that the Kentucky Department of Education sent people to. Obviously a $360,000 conference for 75 people to attend. Again, that's in Kentucky. $222,000 conference for 450 people to attend. A conference in Lexington, $168,000 conference, $165,000 conference, and again, the list goes on. Some more in-state travel. DCBS had a $15,000 meeting at the Natural Bridge. The Department of Corrections incurred $23,000 in catering charges for an awards lunch. The Tourism's office spent almost $17,000 in hotel and catering costs for the Derby. And then DJJ, the Department of Juvenile Justice, spent over $16,000 for a seminar in Bowling Green. What's interesting about that is that we saw that 5 individuals actually didn't even show up to the conference, so there were $656 worth of expenditures for people who didn't stay in the hotel room that it cost. A bunch of groupings here. We have trainings, conferences, food, and trade show expenditures. The first one is an interesting one. The Tourism Cabinet, the Governor's Office, paid a combined $338,000 for derby events to a nonprofit company called First Saturday in May. If you look up that company on the Secretary of State's website, it was actually started by the Governor's former Deputy Chief of Staff. And an example of one of the expenditures we noted there was a $17,000 dinner at Jephthah Creed. On the DPA side, Department of Public Advocacy spent at least $153,000 for its 2024 annual conference, and then $189,000 for its 2025 annual conference. And we note here that these conferences were actually held virtually during the pandemic. We included a couple DCBS employee lunches and the full menu that was on the plate for those lunches. Staying with the same topic, the Council for Post-Secondary Education made a lot of payments to speakers that came in, $30,000 to Cool Speak. I'm not really sure what that is. $14,000 for 2 speakers to talk about systemness. Again, maybe a smarter mind knows what that is than mine. $6,200 for a couple keynote speakers where we don't know much detail as to what was presented. And then another one to note is the $3,000 speaker to talk about strategies to cultivate growth, mindset, purpose, and belonging. Again, not exactly sure what that is. Moving on to staying in the same topic, DMS had a banquet that totaled over $34,000. We included the breakdown of how that came out. Again, this is all information taken from the invoices directly that were attached to the expenditures in EMARS that we saw. Similarly, on the same topic, KDE had a lot of expenditures for conferences. You could see some there, $84,000 for a conference where $41,000 went to food and beverage, $56,000 for an out-of-state conference, another $56,000 for a conference, and then more events and award ceremonies, meetings that you could see listed there. Some other notable expenditures. As you said, Mr. Chairman, almost $70 million are spent in temporary manpower services. And if you remember, right now, the Department of Vehicle Regulation Division of Driver's Licensing is being investigated for an alleged black market of underground ID sales to undocumented non-citizens. The governor said that this was the fault of temp workers. Public reporting has shown that there were actually 2 state employees that were allegedly involved in this. But if it indeed is mostly temp workers, that division spent almost $8 million on those temp workers. We have a little over $51 million spent in services not otherwise classified. Some examples of some of those expenditures include almost $180,000 paid by the Department of Revenue for 300 chairs and their installation, which works out to about $600 a chair. There was a $70,000 expenditure paid by the Department of Workforce Development to Red 70, that company we talked about earlier, for booth work for the state fair. There are some more CPE expenditures for various meals. And of course, a $625 photographer charge by the Kentucky Historical Society. You mentioned that big topic, the other expenses, Mr. Chairman. There are about $120 million spent in these other expenses. This is sort of the miscellaneous code that a lot of entities use when they don't know where to put an expenditure. And then almost $4 million spent on travel for non-state employees. Again, we noted an $11,000 expenditure for a seminar at the Boone Tavern. There's some other notable expenditures on here. More than $3 million spent on subscriptions, $10 million spent on dues. KDE itself spent over $1 million belonging to various nonprofit education organizations, one of them being a $434,000 cost to the Council of Chief State School Officers. Of course, the Governor's Office spent over $113,000 for the governor to belong to the National Governors Association. And then the Economic Development Secretary Office paid a $2,000 subscription to the New York Times. There's a $1.5 million expenditure for promotional entertainment. You can see a little more detail on one of the expenditures there that KDE made. Then what's interesting to us and what we're trying to figure out is this SOVA Solutions expenditure. So in 2021, Kentucky received a $2.1 million grant from the James Graham Brown Foundation, which appears appears to be a philanthropic organization out of Louisville. What was kind of odd is that you usually don't see that. You don't see foundations and nonprofits giving money to the state to then hire somebody to do something. Usually you see the state giving money to the nonprofit or the organization to go do something. But nonetheless, the state received a $2.1 million grant. The CPE went out and used it, quote, to create a new statewide initiative, which ended up being the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative, that will help improve equity and close outcome gaps on college campuses. And what we could tell right now, at least we think that SOVA is a DEI firm, but again, putting aside that, it's really the nature of the transaction here that is a little bit odd. Right now, I think as many people know, we're sort of investigating the Department for Community-Based Services and their failure to execute Senate Bill 151, which is the kinship care bill, which is a bill that every single member of the General Assembly voted in favor of. It was unanimously passed. We note some expenditures here that may be of interest. One I'll highlight is the $481,000 that was paid to a single vendor for, quote, emotional injury evaluations. What's interesting about this one is that this is over $400,000 more than almost every other vendor for these same types of services, and $339,000 more than the next highest vendor. We looked at some of the invoices of this vendor, and we noticed, again, one thing of the impossibility of spending 20 hours in one day interviewing a single patient after allegedly starting that interview at 11 a.m. That's what the bill said. And just finishing up here, this is another set of expenditures by DCBS. I'll just highlight two of them. DCBS paid $539,000 to a vendor that actually agreed to pay a civil suit judgment for improperly billing Medicare and the Kentucky Medicaid, And then another one is that last one, over $34 million spent for IT-related services. We're still trying to figure that out, considering that we have a state agency, the Commonwealth Office of Technology, that provides IT services, and then CHFS has its own internal IT group called OATS. So there's two resources there that we're trying to figure out. Maybe they're not being used as efficiently. And then the last two slides are just other examinations, and findings from other examinations and audits that we've done that are all on our website. You can read them. We're happy to point you and give you the documents you need to look at them. But I know we're short on time, so that's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank y'all very much. And look, there's a lot of detail that goes into EMARS and sorting through that. Thank y'all for assisting us with that. And look, these are just some that have been pulled out of either odd, or the aggregates are odd, or the process is odd or unknown. This is not an exhaustive list of points of interest, but these are some that could be pulled out to talk about today, all back to the original point discussion I had at the very beginning. The money that the government, the state, receives is tax revenue. And if you get a group of just regular people in a room and you start running down through these expenditures with them, what do you think they're going to say, and what are you going to feel in response, and what are you going to think in response? It's just a good time to take a moment when we're looking at what's in the base. Well, let's look at certain codes that are in that base and what's going on. So appreciate it very much going through. I know it's a lot of work and you had to hit a quick summary, but we're still trying to stick at that 1 hour mark. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you very much.
We are adjourned.